alternative culture. Be stylish. Be seductive. Be cynical.
Welcome to the Sinical Magazine podcast. My name is Danny Stygion, and I'm the publisher of Sinical. This is episode number 14. In this episode, I talked to Steve Diet Goedde. Goedde is a legendary fetish photographer that I've always admired. He has recently released part 1 of his 3-volume retrospective that covers 25 years of his fetish photography. This book is called Arrangements Volume 3. We talked a little bit about this book and his current views on photography. Anyway, let's get to it. Arrangements 3 was funded with Kickstarter. How did this idea come about, and what was the process like?
Well, I had been approached from the gallery and publisher Century Guild a long time ago. They were a company in Chicago that dealt mainly with Art Nouveau and arts of antiquity. And Thomas Nagovin, the owner, was a huge fan of my work, and he always wanted to get involved with me in some capacity. The problem was my art didn't really fit his aesthetic and his audience. But eventually he started featuring more contemporary artists like David Mack and I can't think of the other names right now. I'm going blank. But anyway, it kind of paved the way toward more contemporary art and also photography. And, and Clive Barker. He's been working with Clive Barker quite a bit. So he successfully kickstarted a bunch of Clive Barker books. And that kind of convinced me that, I guess this project could work, this way of doing it. So after about a year, I thought about it and go, I think it's about time I start this. And he's well versed in the ways of Kickstarter. And so I didn't have to worry about any of that. He handled the whole campaign, the money, the finances, and all I had to do basically was just work on the book. And, and it worked out extremely well. We had some technical hiccups along the way, so it was delayed a little bit, which was kind of disappointing, but I think it was well worth the result given what it looks like now.
You mentioned in the book that you've been shooting a lot less. Can you elaborate on this for people who haven't seen the book?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm getting older and it's harder for me to get motivated now. I don't have the energy I used to have when I was in my 20s and my early 30s, where I was seemingly shooting all the time. But I've come to really refine my styles and my methods to the point where I just have very specific ways of doing my art now. And I've always worked with specific models that I'm familiar with and friendly with. So I can always rely on them. And so when I do a shoot, I just have to make sure all the elements are there that work with the way I work. So I mean, I don't know, I do 4, 5, 6 shoots a year now, which is fine because I've got such a strong backlog of images from the past. Many of them have not been released yet. So that'll be part of the continuing process of the arrangements project with volume 2 and volume 1 coming out, hopefully sometime within the next year or two. So I only shoot when the conditions are right. I'm in the right mood. I would like to shoot more and do some more experimental stuff, but again, that's where I'm having the problem with motivation. It's just harder for me to, I like doing the shoots. It's just all the coordination is what wears me out. It's like a job, just trying to arrange the shoot, where it's going to take place, if there's going to be makeup involved, if there's other people involved, and that just kind of wears me out. In the old days, it was just me and a bunch of friends. We just spontaneously do photo shoots, and it was always great. But now it just takes a lot more effort, and that kind of turns me off sometimes.
It's become more complicated. What goes on your mind now when you're composing a picture?
Well, my rules of composition have pretty much remained the same throughout all these years. Um, I mean, I like to explore a little bit, but I still have my signature ways of lining up shots. Um, Basically, I mean, photography is basically just looking through a window and arranging shapes. And, you put the subject here, and then you're in an environment, and so there's horizontal lines in the background that kind of cut through that. So I'm always sizing up an image as if it's a photograph I'm viewing. And that's one reason why I don't shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot when I do a photo shoot. Because sometimes my shoots will only consist of 12 photos, but each one of those is carefully taken. Because when I look through the camera, I feel like I'm actually looking at a photograph. So I just make sure all the elements are right, the model's in the right place, she's got the right expression, there's the background's working out, the light's working out. But all these elements have to come together. And sometimes I have to make a decision to shoot something within a second or so. But I feel like that's just second nature to me. So I mean, I really think about these things when I'm doing them, but it just comes naturally. And that's pretty much my process. It's all very controlled, but I leave a little room for improvisation, which I think is important. And I've gotten a lot of my best shots through improvisation and also at accidental exposures. So there's a lot of fun involved. So I let myself play around during shoots sometimes.
And in the book, you also mentioned that you use 9 different types of cameras. Can you talk about your interest in this?
Well, when I first started out, I was pretty much limited to my one medium format camera. It gave me my sense of style because I've never been a tech photographer, so I've always just been happy with what I have to work with, and I'm still adamant about that. I mean, it's the photographer who takes good pictures, not the camera. So that's why I don't invest in the newest, biggest, most expensive cameras, because I'm taking the pictures, not the cameras. So for years, I just used my Mamiya 645 medium format camera. And then what will frequently happen is I'll decide to just shake things up a little bit just for the sake of inspiration. So I started using other cameras. So I had my 35 millimeter Canon A1, which I bought when I was in 7th grade. And so I started using that, and I actually still use that camera currently. It's a great machine. So actually, whenever I'm starting to feel a little uninspired and I need to change things up, that's when I'll start looking at some other cameras. Many of them I just have laying around, like Polaroids, and Holgas are fun too when I'm looking for something that's a little bit more painterly in style. I often don't like my photos to look too lifelike. So many photographs, especially today with the advance of digital technology, photographs just look too much like windows. I feel like there has to be some sort of a textural filter, which forces the viewer to see things in a different light than how you see them when you're just looking with your own eyes. So I like exploring with different cameras, point and shoots, like I said, the Holgas. And last year I started doing Polaroid transfers, which was a lot of fun. That resulted in a gallery show that I did earlier this year, which was very successful. So I like to play around a little bit, but not in a fast-paced manner. I just once I get inspired, I'll shoot with something new. But I still shoot with my Mamiya 645. That's my grounding camera. That's the one that keeps my style consistent throughout the years. So yeah, I like to keep my solid look, but then also introduce some fun things along the way, especially with iPhone photography. I mean, that's even the earlier iPhones I liked even better than the new ones because they're not as crisp looking. I get more of a painterly look with a less technological camera, if that makes sense.
And can you talk about lighting? You work with available light?
Yeah, available light is pretty much all I like to shoot in. I mean, I like to see what I'm shooting in real life. Um, and that doesn't mean just any natural light. It has to be good natural or available light. So I can't do my style just anywhere. So when I show up somewhere to do a shoot, I'll survey the area, figure out what areas are best, and most importantly, where the light really works. So sometimes that's a struggle. Sometimes it's hard to get exactly what I want, but I eventually find it. I've never liked using strobes. I have a very, very minimal understanding of how they work, and the few times I've played with them, it's just not my style. I've had to do it on some jobs before, and it's just not me. So, but yeah, I like to see what I'm shooting. I like to see the light as I'm seeing it with my own eyes, and that's always been my method. I mean, I'm just a fan of light all the time. When I'm out driving, I'm always noticing light and thinking that, oh, this would be a great place to do a photo shoot. But then sometimes I'll just take street photography too of really good light, and I'll upload those to Instagram and whatnot.
And which social media platforms do you like to use when promoting new images besides Instagram?
Tumblr has always been very good for me. Flickr is still the place where I have most of my work on display. I know a lot of people don't use Flickr that much anymore, especially newer audiences, but there's a huge audience there. And it's a really good way of showing my work. And I also have a DeviantArt profile. What else? I think those are the main ones. Oh, 500 pixels. I've got a showcase there. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Facebook. So yeah, that's where I show all my work.
And to go back to arrangements, what is your plan for the other two volumes, and why are you going backwards?
Well, for those of you who don't know, it's a 3-part 25-year retrospective. Volume 3 just came out, which is the first volume to be released. And then Volume 2, which will consist of my middle years from 2000 to 2006. And then Volume 1 will be the beginning from 1990 to 1999. The reason why we're going backwards is because all the stuff that's going to be in Volume 1 of Arrangements has already been released in book form in my first 2 books, The Beauty of Fetish Volumes 1 and Volume 2. So people have been asking for a new book for decades now. So I didn't want to just do a rehash of all the old classics and whatnot. So that's why I decided, okay, we'll do Volume 3 first with all the new work, and it'll just be far more interesting for more people. So that's what Volume 3 is. Then Volume 2, again, which will be 2000 to 2006, will be probably one of my most productive periods. So with these other volumes, there's going to be a lot of unreleased material, things that I still have not even seen myself yet, because going back through all these proof sheets, I mean, there's just stuff that I just didn't notice the first time I did a photo shoot. So they're going to be heavily on the unreleased. I mean, the classics will be there too, just with alternate versions, etc. So for the last 2 months now, I've been starting the process of going through material. My editor, Eric Kroll, and I started working on Volume 2 a little bit at the end when we were done with Volume 3. So we have a little bit of it done, but there's still a lot more to go through. So I'm hoping to start working on that fully once the new year starts. They'll be my new little project.
I love hard case crime books, and they recently published a collaboration with you, Dita, and artist Robert McGinnis. Can you talk about this?
Yeah, that was just something that just totally came out of the blue. I was contacted by Hard Case about this about this project that, Roger McGinnis was going to do a new illustration for them. And they wanted a model that was more recognizable, so they wanted Dita, and I think they got her interest first, and then they contacted me about doing the photography. So it all came together pretty quickly. I've been a big McGinnis fan forever, and so to me this really feels like one of the ultimate things of my career, to have Roger McGinnis paint a photograph that I've taken. And for those of you who don't know, he did all the original James Bond movie posters with Sean Connery, and also did some of the Roger Moore ones. He did the Breakfast at Tiffany's movie poster, but he also did all those really great pulp paperback covers from the 50s and 60s, and the art on those is just so exquisite. So the fact that he painted one of my photographs at the age of 90, I think, or maybe 89, was just an extreme honor. So, but yeah, it came together rather quickly. Dita and we met at her house. This was a situation where I had to shoot differently than I normally do, because the light had to be more direct. So I use floodlights, because the natural look doesn't really go with his style. Everything's really well lit. So I lit it like it would be a painting of his. So we just did about 2 hours worth of pictures in her living room and a couple other little areas, and they were rather quick to decide which picture to use. And maybe 5 months later, McGinnis provided the cover, and we were all blown away. And now it exists, and you can order it on Amazon or at your local independent bookseller.
Yeah, the cover looks great. My last question, do you have any upcoming projects or events you'd like to mention?
Well, besides just working on the other volumes of arrangements, I'm doing a collaborative show with artist Alex Cowenberg. He's a painter that works in a very graphic style, and we've been fans of each other for a long time. So we're doing this gallery show. I think it's going to be in April, but that's still all being worked out. So we're working on that for the next 3 months or so. There'll be more information about that soon, but I'm really looking forward to doing a new artistic collaboration with someone I admire.
That sounds great. Thanks again for doing the interview, Steve.
Hey, no problem, Danny. I enjoyed this. Thank you.